Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session of Peace and Purpose. Today, our topic is, do you know how to meditate? I don't. Learning how to meditate without self-judgment. We have with us the mindfulness meditation influencer guru, Meg Watt, hailing from Detroit, bringing us the good. Hello, Meg.
Guru,
This fine day.
guru, that's too much pressure. Like
Too
I
much
just,
pressure. You know what? See the self-judgment coming in right now. We already started with it.
that's too much pressure. Yeah, I just want to be a mental health influencer. If I can help you, quiet your mind for just a little bit during the day, then I'll take that.
I got you. A bit of a
How are you
mentor.
doing?
A meditation mentor. We'll go with mentor.
Mentor. Ooh,
I like that.
I received that. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. I am good this fine day. Happy because I get to see your smiling face.
Oh, thank you, Ivy.
Yeah. So, yes, meditation, all things meditation. It's huge right now, right? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's supposedly doing it. Yeah, because we think we're doing it, but we're probably doing it wrong. We don't know how to do it. It seems like something we should do. But it seems really hard because our mind is always going when we think it's supposed to be absolutely still. So we're failing at this because my brain is all over the place, right? So let's talk about it. First, let's talk about how you got to this, your journey. You need therapy too, you know,
Yeah.
all
So
of
definitely a long time coming. I wanna start there. Like I started therapy at the age of 23 years old. And so I went consistently for like 12 years. I just recently got discharged. My therapist is like, "Yeah, I think you're good now, if you need to come back if something happens, but we don't need to keep doing this." And I'm like, "Huh?" Like got a little separation anxiety from the
the
therapist.
bandage
But
off, right?
right. But along that 12-year therapy journey, I just started trying all these different healing modalities. So I've tried over 30
Mm.
different healing modalities that all do
That you've
different things.
categorized them in no, it's been 30. Like you're like, no, I did a real try. I did some classes.
Yes. Yeah, over 12 years, like boom, 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 always trying something new. And of
Mm,
course, meditation came up along that path, that journey. And like you just said, right? Like everybody tries it. We started, we kind of know it's kind of like this mysterious thing. Like, what is meditation and how do I do it? Right. So I just basically like quieted myself. And I just mean verbally. Like I'm not, there's no talking, there's no guidance. I'm just sitting there. And my mind was just going crazy. It was going a million miles per minute. Like there
mm,
were so many thoughts. I remember, um, like I was thinking about the clothes I had on. I was thinking about like the to-do list. I was
yeah.
thinking about like childhood stuff. Like literally everything was just coming up in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And and at the end of that session, like this is like one of the first times, I was just quiet. At the end of that session, it was just full of I didn't do it right. I just felt like I didn't do it right. And then fast forward years later, when I finally tapped into the stillness
Mm-hmm.
of being, right? Because when we think about meditation and all of the things that you're doing while
Right.
you're meditating, you're not really meditating. You're doing instead of being. And
Mm.
when you reach that moment, that space of just being, then that's when you know you're meditating. But
That
I
felt
will
so dope.
also
Like you said, the way you said, I was like, oh, I felt that, right? All down to my belly. I'm like, oh, solar plexus is like that part, boo. You need to get there.
yeah. And I mean, I also want to point out that like meditation and mindfulness in particular, because I want to be clear, there are so many classes and so many different types of meditations.
Yeah.
I am more familiar with the mindfulness model of meditation, which was created by John Kabat-Zinn.
Mhm.
And this is actually a program, it's 8 weeks long. It's called Mindfulness Based Stress Reduction. And it has been proven to do so many things, Ivy, like things that like medication can't do, right?
Wow.
Like mindfulness based stress reduction has been proven to like prolong cancer patient lives, like
Mm.
reduce significant pain, reduce anxiety, depression, blood pressure. Like everything that happens in our body biologically, it starts emotionally.
Right.
And what the mindfulness does is just really put you in a place where you can be present with the moment. And I had a shaman ask me once, she said, the question that I always go back to is, are all of my needs being met right now?
Hmm. Okay.
And every time I'm in a position of just feeling like overwhelmed or super stressed out, I just always go back to that question. Are all of my needs met right now? And oftentimes the answer is yes. Like
Yeah.
if you're just being real with yourself, you're not being a brat, you're not being a victim, you are being real.
And being really honest, not like all your wants, but like food, clothing, shelter. You can
Do I
go
have
to
the
the
four
bathroom.
walls?
You can move. You right.
Yes.
That's the needs. It may not be every emotional need, but that's not a need.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's really because when people first say that, they're probably like, well, no, I'd really like more love. And oh, my family doesn't. That's not your need.
Right.
The need for staying alive. It may not be
Yeah.
for thriving, but for staying alive. Food,
At the
clothing,
base.
shelter,
Yeah.
and the ability to relieve oneself and sleep. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And sometimes those are negotiable, right?
Right. Right.
So that's
So
that's a really great question to start with because that helps you kind of take it down a notch, because we get so anxious about the nots and the do not haves and the I needs and the it's not working out and the because it's so easy to focus on that negative space, even when you're still like I have this good stuff, but because it's the constant yearning, wanting. Um, that's dope. I love that.
I think that's really like also the practice, right?
Mhm.
Like when you when you think about people who are like always zen, right? Like they're just always really chill, nothing ruffles their feathers. Ultimately, these are people who have just come to a state of being and
Mm.
they understand that, like, at the end of the day, we're all going to die.
It is what it is, what it is.
At the end of the day, your only responsibility is to chase your own happiness.
Mm.
It's not to control anybody else's happiness. It's not to try to control your happiness in other people, right?
Right.
It's really just, what does happiness look like for me? And then if the answer to that is a new car, a new house, some new shoes, a new trip, then you got to go deeper. Because one day you'll never have all of those things.
Right.
And that's what meditation really teaches us, right? Like meditation really teaches us that at the end of the day, you came in this world alone. You're likely going to leave alone. Now, I am a twin, so that statement really isn't totally accurate for me. But
I mean, technically,
ultimately,
you came out one by one, so you still came in this
that's
world alone.
true. I
Now,
came
your
out 5 minutes
incubation period was
after.
group. We had a group project popping over here. Me
That's
and mine,
true.
you and yours. Twin life is real, but
But
still,
yeah, at the end of the day, you are going out alone. And often you're in a bed before you go, you're by yourself before you go. So
yeah,
getting comfortable with yourself is
the
really
one
the most
constant.
important thing you can do.
Yeah, it's the one constant in your life. The
Yeah,
one thing that will always
you.
be with you is all of the yous that there
Yeah.
are. It's
And
multifaceted. That is, yeah.
listen, and when I guide people, so I do these wellness consults where people are like, Meg, I see what you're doing. I got to talk to you because you obviously have some keys, 12 years of doing this, books, conferences, therapy
Training,
sessions, workshops,
certifications,
all of
yeah.
this stuff. Where do I start? And we often have the conversation of, what is your goal?
Mm,
What is your goal? Because that is going to determine where we start.
yeah.
So your goal can't be chasing material things because all of those things are going to go. All of those
Even if you
things,
have them, let's say you get the yacht, you get the trip, you get the
sure.
extended trip, get the next trip, you still got to sit with yourself in there. I mean,
You
yes,
still got to see what
you
you're saying.
can eat and drink and dance the whole trip away. You still got to wake up with yourself, right? It's
Yeah.
still you. And no
That's
matter
what
how
the
much running, you'll never escape you.
I'm telling
And
you.
that's I think the distraction. We think that if I work to this, I'll be this. If I work to that, if I just go do that, I can leave all of this behind and let it go. But you've never let it go.
Never let it go.
You don't sit in it, sit through it, move through it, and then release it. You'll never, it won't, you have to release it. It's not just going to just like jump off your back. Monkeys don't just jump up off your back. They're going
And
to hold
that's the
you right
thing,
behind.
Ivy, that's a conversation we really don't want to have, right? I can't get things out of my body unless I face them. So we don't get them out of our bodies. And then, and this is not my theory. This is based on many books I've read by
Really.
physicians as well as psychiatrists who combine, work together and talk about all the cases. And ultimately, the sicknesses that we see, they're a result of that emotional illness that we have not dealt with.
Yeah.
It's nothing to do with physical. It shows up physically because you've
Yeah.
ignored it so long, your body can't take it
And
anymore.
now manifest the issues in the
It
tissues.
has to manifest.
Yeah.
So I'm doing an experiment on myself. We shall see. I'm doing an experiment on myself
I love it.
to prevent the cancers, to prevent the Alzheimer's, to prevent the diabetes, to prevent the hypertension, to prevent all of these things that we just write off as, oh, what was me? Oh, this is my life. Oh, my mama had it, so I got it.
Because
That's
they
not
said
true.
what percentage of it of they used to try to say that the percentage of disease was for hereditary was much higher, but now they're like it's minuscule.
Oh,
They
it's
have
tiny.
found it's
It's tiny.
minuscule. Like you could have all the cancer and heart disease and diabetes in your bloodline, but and it's not just diet, it's not just eating clean.
No,
It's that mental, spiritual wellness,
it all
heart,
plays.
because our heart is just as important, right? If our heart and our brain ain't proper, it doesn't matter what good food we eat.
That's right.
Eating all the live food, all the
Doesn't
juices,
matter how much yoga you do.
it don't matter if you don't release that stuff and deal, and not even just release it. First, you gotta address it. Because you can say I released it all you like, right? It ain't done.
Ooh.
It ain't done. Just said monkey don't leave you willingly. So yeah.
There's a book that talks about that too. It's called The Body Keeps Score. And it
Yes.
talks about how all of the traumas that we endure, little traumas and big traumas. Because when you talk to some people, that some people only believe that traumas are like, oh, I went to war and I came back.
Right.
Oh, I died. Like no, 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 no. There's a massive list of things that
Yeah.
qualify as traumas.
And I think we're just really starting to understand and appreciate. Like again, we usually think of like this like definitive violence, right? Like I saw someone shot. I
Yes.
survived a shooting as trauma, negating the verbal harm people do. I don't care. That sticks and stones is some foolishment. Words cut like a knife, and that doesn't mean you're a punk, right? Is that not PC to say anymore? I don't know. It's my favorite word for describing it. Like I'm not a punk, but understanding these all of these things push in, it doesn't have anything to do with the generation and the inherited hurts and traumas and words that harmed or actions that harmed that still sit in our bodies just as much. What is it? I was literally in my grandmother's womb because when what I mean, because when she like eggs were already present in the bodies, so I
Listen.
literally lived through multiple generations of whatever they got,
Yeah.
which means that's some trauma. I don't care if it's white, black, young, old, rich, poor.
Right. The race is like a whole other layer of
That's
trauma.
it.
It
Yeah.
it, it is getting its own diagnoses.
But separate and apart, standing up on its own. It's got two legs. It's moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. We have to do twice as much work. When you're talking about the black tax and in corporate America, you got to work harder, you got to turn in more assignments, you got to stay later. I don't subscribe to that, by the way.
Right.
I prefer
And
to
the
work
woman
where
tax,
I'm
there's the black
valued.
and the woman.
Uh,
Right.
but
Right. That
but
thing you have to work harder just to get ahead. No, I'm
yeah,
fresh. I start off fresher than y'all anyway. So let's start there. Full stop.
true.
And then whatever I show up with is just good enough. And that's also part of the burden. That's what I was looking for. Is that you have to work twice as hard, that you still won't be seen as enough.
Yeah.
You'll be seen by enough by those that matter, that those that resonate and reflect. So it's how do we get to more spaces where folks see us and we're not fighting to be heard and seen and for other folks to jump over us in line and I get a advancement in this job. No, that's not the place for us. And that's hard because we're like, well, that's where the jobs are. Where
Right.
else can we create? That's an old type of thinking. Is that real
And I
country? No,
think
that's an old type of thinking.
I'm like, and so I think again, just bringing it back to meditation and particularly mindfulness,
Mhm.
this is why it's so important. And I'll take myself as a perfect example. So my full-time job, I work as a healthcare IT consultant. So as a consultant, you're already seen as the expert, or you're at least expected to be
Right.
the expert. And
They say y'all something other when you show up.
right. So like I work with hospitals all over the country. And it's always sort of this prior to meditation, very stressful experience. Like so stressful that I had like chronic back pain. Like I would have back flares so badly that
Mhm.
I would be in a wheelchair,
Oh my word.
walker, cane at the age of 27. And I played college softball. I'm an athlete.
Yeah.
So stress, that was stress. But with meditation, with mindfulness, I got to the point where my appraisal of a situation changed.
Mm.
Not the situation. I'm still doing the same work, but I don't have back flares anymore.
But you said
Like
you're
I'm playing
okay.
golf, right?
Right.
So
That.
the meditation gets us to a point where you are more stable across anything that happens. That's why it's important, y'all, because
Yeah.
shit is changing all day, every day. Oh, are we supposed to? Sorry for the language there.
It's
Um,
grumpy
but
girl.
things are changing every moment of the day. But what doesn't change is your capacity to appraise a situation differently.
Mm.
Once you build that up,
You've that stated that way before. I love that. And I thank you for that. Um, because we always think of, oh, you're just more balanced. Oh, things are no, it's how you interpret and assess and look at and internalize what's happening around you because it ain't to you.
yeah. So
Um,
John Kabat-Zinn has a book called Full Catastrophe Living. And in that book, he
I love
describes,
it. Full
yeah,
catastrophe
he
living.
describes how, two people got an HIV diagnosis. And one of them is like, oh, woe is me. I can't believe this. This is terrible. Now I'm going to
Mhm.
die. Like, I mean, that's one reaction. And the
Yeah,
other reaction is, woo, I'm glad you guys found it. All right. So what's the plan? What we got going on
cool.
here?
I love that.
Like,
And I'm sure those health outcomes mirrored the response.
without a doubt, the
How
guy
long
who
did the one that
responded
was
one
what was
way,
me
he
live?
died sooner.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And he died unhappy. Like, that's the part of this. You don't have to die unhappy.
Mhm.
You really don't. And you don't have to live unhappy either. Like I've told so many people this, and I don't know how they interpret it. I don't know. But I've told so many people like, you don't have to die like this.
Mm,
Full of anxiety.
yeah.
You don't have to die like this. You don't have to die stuck in your depression. You don't have to die stuck in your negativity, being Debbie Downer all day, every day. You don't have to be that person.
Right.
You just have to make a choice. You just have to make a choice. You can just go on social media and follow the hashtags Black Healing, follow
Mm,
the hashtags Therapy for Black Girls, follow the hashtags Healing All Day, whatever it is. There's so much data and information and knowledge out there that you can control your outcome.
mm,
The tools are there. We know that the tools are there already, right? We don't have to be like the baby boomers who literally lived on survival mode. Like that was what they knew to do.
yeah.
We don't have to do that now. Like you can really take
They literally
charge.
pushed through and got it to us. The information is there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's folks that look like us doing it. So it's not that because there's already like a little gap, like a chasm about accessing this information. Because it ain't the I'm watching Netflix and Hulu. I mean, be a great special on Hulu. We should work on it, right? Um,
Ooh,
but
that would be lit.
there's people that look like us doing this work, leading the retreats if you're a retreat person, leading the workshop if you're a workshop, writing the books if you're a book, got an audio book. Um, there's people so that leap to, I don't know, this is some different stuff. Man, they not us as either. I don't know. We've got that covered. We have professionals. They may not get the all the sunshine and the platform, but Here is a platform. There's ways to find us. Like you said, follow those hashtags. There's so many mental health professionals online. There's
So
so many
many.
advocates of positivity online on the grandma Insta. I don't know
And
about
even
the
this idea, yeah, this idea that like I can't afford therapy is just not true. Especially in 2020, we saw so many celebrities come out and say, I'm donating millions. Who want to go to therapy? I'm donating. Like there are websites. If you
and
just
there's
Google,
expanded in the CARES Act, they expanded the coverage for mental health, especially for youth, right?
yep,
That was in the, it's literally in the law. We go on and get you some, honey. Go on and get you
yeah.
some. And if that therapist isn't right, if they don't speak to you, if they sound a little crazy, because I went to one when I was very young, not young, like I just finished school, and it's community mental health place. She was just like, "You're not depressed. You just need to go get a job.
You're not depressed. You just need to go get it. Like,
If you just had a job, because
ah, man,
that's your act, that's your response. You're supposed to be professional."
seriously. I want to do a video series on like how to choose a good therapist. Because I think we also need to be mindful that
Scheduling
a
now.
lot of
Just letting the producer know
therapists,
we're scheduling this now.
like a lot of therapists, they have really rough upbringings. And like that's why they go into therapy.
Pushes them
But
to.
but a lot of them, they think, well, I'll just go into it and help people. I don't have to heal myself. So you need to make sure that your
Yeah.
therapist has done her work, his work,
Yeah.
right? That should be the first question. Do you
Yeah.
see a therapist? Have you gone through therapy?
Supposed to, yeah. Yeah, I had a line
I think you
sister
should
that
ask
went to
that.
grad school for to be a therapist. Then she realized because part of the program was getting therapy, was that she just needed therapy herself. She was
Yeah.
interested, she's a brilliant brain, but it wasn't that she just was seeking the
Her
solution.
healing.
And right. And so once
I
she
think
got
that's
it,
the
she's
way.
like, this ain't really what I want to do. I just really needed this healing. Finished her
Yeah.
master's program, went on to get an MBA doing something else. But
Bro,
really,
and it's a lot of people who don't get out of it, right? Like they don't do something else. They go into it and now they're stuck with the debt. They stuck with the life of being a therapist.
and
And
they
they
don't
may
like,
not be good at it. There's
oh,
people who aren't good at every job.
yeah.
So
I
I,
would think
I
it would
find
be
that
there.
we
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
very difficult. Like I find that a lot of people are like, "Oh, should I get another one? Oh, should I talk to them?" And I'm just like, "You should do what you want to do.
You don't go
Like,
to the same
don't stay
retail
with a
store
therapist."
if you don't like the clothes, you go to a different store.
Exactly. I don't know why we're so like it. I know why. I know why, right? Because we have been conditioned to not listen to ourselves pretty
Yeah,
much all our lives. You know, when
yeah.
you think about parents and how they try to control everything you do for the most part,
Because I said
that
so.
is a subliminal message that you're learning. My needs don't matter.
Yeah.
My wants are not important. And I need to just continue to ignore myself because
Yeah.
that's what was
Like when they make
taught
children
to
finish
me.
their food, even though they're full.
Yeah. I
You're
struggle with weight
immediately
because
teaching
my
them.
dad did that.
Yeah. Fish was on your plate. My parents did it too, although they didn't put much on my plate. My mother's a clinical dietitian. I always have an advantage for a lot of things. My mom was a clinical dietitian.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, but they still, now sometimes I was just naive because I ain't like it and I feel like, and they was like, what you gonna do is sit there until you're done,
Yeah,
but
it's just like that doesn't but that doesn't work. Like, what is the fear there? But again, we're talking about, and I don't know if this is true for your parents, but I think my parents, although they made decent money, I mean, I think they made six figures at least the whole time I was growing up in the 80s, early 90s, but they didn't make good financial decisions. So
mm,
we were kind of like
yeah,
struggling, if you will.
yeah,
So when you don't finish the food, you're disrespecting their pockets, their hard-earned money, they're the money they worked for,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like,
Mine
well,
were
you don't know that
savory. Oh
that's
my
what you're
goodness.
doing.
My mother talks about when they first finished school together, and she would determine, okay, look, if I buy the meat for this week or the month or whatever, because she'd freeze it by a bunch. This is what you get every day. That's somebody that lost his weight from college because he'd gotten chunky in school. Because no, you don't get 2 to 3 pieces of meat at this meal. You let you get it in a calf or whatever. You get one, friend. Be
Right.
glad, get your vegetables, get your starch, and move on
Yeah.
to the next meal. And you train yourself. But they were immense savers. Oh my God. They weren't savvy investors. They did the basics 401ks and blah blah blah. But My dad was an accountant and an auditor.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, I mean,
And
that's like really,
like,
it's interesting how you hear those careers now and you're like, oh, they definitely could have been out here like saving up college funds and like doing this. But financial literacy,
even though he was an accountant, wasn't the savviest. He's gonna do the standard, like I said, but nah, they savings, they live in lavish and sipping wine for their retirement. I was like, okay, I guess I didn't need those gas jeans in high school because y'all, you know
that's
what I
right.
mean?
Put your
Because they
mask
had a
on
plan.
first.
Right. So yeah, but I think all of that pushes into how we think of ourselves and our wants and needs and listening to ourselves, um, and not knowing how valid those little pushes are in your brain or in your belly or in your heart. Um, which goes back to not being able to quiet because in your brain and your belly and heart are screaming at you all the time because you're not listening.
Yeah.
How do
Ooh.
we,
Say that again.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
screaming at you because you're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
People
Mm-hmm.
do not want to be with themselves.
Honey, that's
People
why
do not want
Netflix
to
and
be with
Hulu is winning
themselves.
out here right now. Every streaming channel in the world, every sports, everything that pushes you away from centering and sitting and just delving in and enjoying. Like there's beautiful mysteries to be uncovered in yourself, right? But
Yeah.
listen, I've been on the road I started looking at the stacks of different books at like 12 and 13 at the library. I'd be there for something and just go finding, somehow I'd find the metaphysical books. And I'd be like, oh, but one, like I was taking them home too much because they would look crazy, right? But see, not listening. But still, that I've been on this dipping and diving journey, it's still sitting with can be difficult because you're like, I mean, it comes to you. She'd be like, all right, I get it. But how do you hear after you get it? How do you sit with it and live with it and flesh it out and walk with it every day? And I think the meditation is key. So how do we learn to meditate, accept the wildness in our brain?
Yeah.
But like you said, I think we talked about anchors that help you pull you back. How do you walk into a meditative experience without judgment, or not without, because we're going to have it, um, but allow ourselves some grace, same grace we give our friends and our mom and them, or
Mhm.
when they do something that they hadn't planned or didn't choose well, we give them grace. How do we give ourselves grace and keep showing up for ourselves and
Yeah.
trying new things? How do we do that?
Yeah. It's such a powerful question, right? And I think for a lot of people, this could be a lifelong journey.
Mm,
And one thing I want to encourage everyone is to be excited about the journey.
mm,
To be excited about the fact that a year from now, you're going to be able to look back and say, whoa, I'm meditating more and more now.
I love it.
Whoa, I did not react to that the same way I would have reacted a year ago. That has been my experience. The
Nice.
more I sit down and tap into myself, I'm able to just see the growth over short periods of time. I mean, short periods of time. And when we talk about extending ourselves grace, super powerful, Ivy, because like you said, we were taught, inadvertently, indirectly, subconsciously, that I gotta judge myself and I gotta be hard on myself. But I'm gonna just take this one step and then I'm gonna come back to the anchors, right?
Sure.
So when we think about how we talk about ourselves, how we even talk about our children, um, Dr. Joy Degree, I think I'm saying her name correct. Dr.
Mhm.
Joy, she posits a post-traumatic slave syndrome condition,
Mhm.
where this is a result of back in slavery days when you couldn't speak well about how your kid was doing in the field because massa was going to come and sell them.
Exactly.
So you
Exactly.
got in your head, oh no, he's not doing a good job. No, he's terrible. He's super slow. I mean, I can't really get him to do anything.
Yeah, you
So
can't be
we
shining too
internalize
much.
that to ourselves.
Don't shine too much. You shining out here, but why you showing out?
Exactly.
You think you
Exactly.
smarter than everybody else? All of that.
And that still exists, right?
Uh,
So we
Very
have
present.
to, you have to sort of equip yourself with the knowledge to
Mm,
understand this is not who I'm meant to be deep down inside. This is not who I'm meant to be. I am meant to shine. I come from kings and queens. So for me to shine, I have to extend myself grace. I have to extend myself love. But just, okay, so I'll put that there. But
mm,
to get back to the actual practicality of meditation, when I first learned mindfulness, there's a couple principles to mindfulness.
okay.
And the first principle is if you're breathing, there is more right with you than wrong, right? Like you
That's
just hear
justice.
that and you're
Woo!
like,
Freed a lot of
ooh.
souls right there. You freed me. Listen, listen, listen,
So when
listen.
you know these principles and you really believe in them, which I do believe that there's more right with me than wrong if I'm breathing.
Yes, yes.
And there's a few more principles, but you sit down and you don't try to sit for 45 minutes, right? Like
I was
this
gonna be
is
my
your
next
first time
question. How do you
meditating,
start? What's the starter kit? Yes.
right? Like, yeah, okay, let me give you the starter kit for meditation, bro. Because people be like, okay, I got to get my yoga fit, I got to get my mat, I got to get my timer, my meditation seat, I
Right.
got to get my
Making a
single
whole
bowl.
production.
Like we
That you have that
do
right
it
there,
too.
though. Let me show you how you know yourself and what you need and have your tools ready, though. I appreciate that. But if you don't have
Yeah.
all that, you got YouTube. It'll play the gong for you. It'll play it.
If you don't have all of that, if you have nothing, that is okay. And the first thing I would do to start is just count your breaths.
Mm.
Take 5 minutes and just count your breaths.
So literally, you're just counting how many inhales and exhales you do, or just how many inhales. You're right, because you'll be focused on that inhaling and counting and keeping score. So your brain can't do too much else because you're like, oh wait, I'm on 10. I can't think about that right now because I'm gonna forget that I did. Oh, that's 11.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
And before you know it, you might reach an hour because you have restarted the count. But all of that time, your body is really activating the parasympathetic state because
Mm.
you're being present. That's really the point of meditation, to activate the parasympathetic state.
And what happens when you activate? For those that don't know, the parasympathetic.
That is your relaxation phase. So
Mm.
that is where your body is actually vibrating higher frequencies. So your body is vibrating in the love, the kindness, the clarity, the focus, the relaxation, the pain free, right? The
Mm-hmm.
happiness, all of that is there. But the opposite of the parasympathetic state is the chronic stress state. And that is where you feel the worry, you feel the tension, the tightness, the pins and needles, the pain,
Yeah.
the sadness, the grief, the anger,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So
Think
that
of the past,
parasympathetic
think through the
state.
future. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Anxiety, worried about the future, depression, worried about the past.
Yeah.
If you are in any of those frequencies, anxiety and depression, you're not present because you're either in the past or you're in the future.
And your body isn't functioning optimally because it's stressing. So even the blood
Exactly.
flowing isn't proper. The cells are not
Exactly.
reproducing. It's not managing your food through your
Right.
body and processing correct. So you wonder like why you got IBS, so your belly isn't right.
You your body wants you to be in harmony all the time. Your body wants you to be in harmony all the time. So your body wants you to be present because your body is present. Your body can never be in the past or in the future. Your body is always here. So when we talk about anchors in meditation, your
Mhm.
body is the number one anchor.
Okay. Okay.
If you can go to your breath, then you know you're present.
Mm.
You're meditating. Then you have five senses. Those are also anchors.
Okay.
So if you say, okay, what are five things I can see right now? That's a form of meditation. It's actually a grounding exercise.
Mm.
You do five, four, three, two, one. But all of your senses can be an anchor. What do I see? Okay, I see a camera right now. What color is the camera? Oh, it's black, but it's got like a white ring light around it and a button in the middle, and it looks like it's pretty hard. And you literally just start talking about this thing. You are present. Okay. So then we have our ears. What do I hear? Okay, I can kind of hear my laptop running right now. I wonder what that is. Sounds like my neighbors outside blowing leaves, right? Like you're present. Now, if you say my neighbor's outside blowing leaves, we need a leaf blower. Let me text Daryl, my husband. Okay.
Immediately out of that. You're out of it.
But when that happens, that's
Mm.
normal. When your mind wanders away from your anchor, that is normal. But
You just take a
again,
breath, think of return, or get a new, try something else. Yeah.
it's just about the journey. It's about the practice. Like you look forward to the practice. Like, oh, my mind wandered. Ooh, but I caught it. Okay, let me
So the
go back to
starter
my
kit
five
is
senses.
5 minutes a day,
Start with 5 minutes
every
a day.
day, or this the goal is 3 times a week, or
You
should you
know,
try for every day? And then if you land on 3 times a week, you live in lavish.
I think that 3 times a week is really good. If you could do 5 minutes for 3 times a week, that's incredible. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
And then eventually you'll want to do it more. You'll be like, oh, let me do 5 minutes
It's like when I
on
go
this
walking, I
Tuesday.
never want to, but once I get that past the 10-minute mark, I feel good. My strides living lavish. I was like, oh, this feels so nice. Oh,
Yeah,
even if it's funky outside, it still feels good, that
it
movement and the fresh
feels
air.
good.
So do people, should they, like, you mentioned frequency, and there's different megahertz that deal with love and regeneration was at 528 and 432 and all these
Yeah.
different, should they play that in the background, get a little YouTube moment? Sometimes it's a little easier maybe to like not have dead space, right? Or other sounds coming, pushing at you. Would you
Yeah.
recommend putting any sort of like meditative sounds or the sounds of the ocean or any of that?
I think it really depends on the person.
Okay.
And that's another thing with meditation. Sometimes we do want to be so rigid with how to do it, but some people don't like noise. I mean, not noise, but they
Sound.
don't they just want silence. So if you want silence, use it. If you can't sit in silence just yet with yourself, then play a YouTube video and you can, like I said, you can go to YouTube and type in whatever hurts you want to hear, and or you could just type in meditation music.
Mhm.
You can type in guided meditation in YouTube and let someone guide you through your meditative practice, which is also recommended for people who are starting out because you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with my hands, right? Like you're just all confused. You
Right.
can go to YouTube. You can go to YouTube
YouTube
and search.
University. It teaches
Yeah.
everything. My best friend. My best friend is Google. Who's your best friend? Google. Google all the answers. I can figure it out.
Right.
Oh, so I love that the approach is singular, right? It's from your perspective. And I think people, one that can be a little scary, right? Oh, I get to determine my experience, just like everything in your life. But we also don't know that we can determine every experience in our life.
That's
So it's like this little microcosm of like what real life can be. We won't say shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it's like just a little microcosm. Like if you exert a little self-direction and reflection and a little interrogation in this one area, imagine what explodes in everyone. And that also can be scary because people are like, wait, the status quo is comfortable. I'm not trying to rock no boats because I ain't trying to think that hard.
oh yeah.
But you want to reduce that blood pressure, that heart disease,
Or the
that
control that other people have over you.
uh, the reaction quotient you got in your life be popping off just because folks say something crazy to you or look at you crazy.
Right. And other people don't even think it's
Unbothered.
crazy.
You'll be
But you
unbothered.
think it's crazy. Like
That
it's more
part.
so to release everybody else's control over you as well.
Yeah.
And you're in tune with like responding and not reacting.
And like
Like
assessing, like, how do I feel about it?
exactly.
Does it matter? Oh, okay. Do you? Like it kind of, like I said, it is what it is, what it is. You get more, okay. And
Yeah,
you're
I
not,
mean,
even without having to vent. Because I think that like we utilize venting is halfway of meditation for us, right? That's a practice. That's a practice. You know what I mean? We go and we vent and we get crunk and we let it all out and we air it out. But when you've spat on whoever you had to listen to that, and you kept it going in yourself. So it's not even the most positive of responses, even though we feel like it is because we're purging it. But is
yeah,
it the purging really healthy? That doesn't mean keep it all in, but there's ways to release without one throwing up on someone else, but two, getting all angst filled while you're purging, because you can't tell it without getting crunk. Like you're just not going to. I just realized someone supposed something about like using slang that lets you know your age. I was like, oh, did we use crunk again? Yeah, yeah.
crunk.
Um, but you can't, right? I retell stories and I'm just as crunk as if it happened to me, or more crunk, like because you're allowing your emotions. Because in that moment, you're not gonna, I'm not one of those pop off at people kind of people. But when I'm venting, I'm a little bit more crunk, right? I'm a little more excited. Um, but it doesn't solve it. It doesn't help me feel better. It just has that
It
release.
helps you feel worse. Like that's the part.
You're still living with it and you relived it. And you know what I mean? As opposed to, and even if you figure out a solve in that venting, or even already know the solve, but you vent it,
Yeah.
what comes out of it? Like you're right. If you could just breathe through it, take it down and look at it, how much better would you feel? Your pressure
Yeah,
show would be up. Your pressure would
it,
be up. Your stress
it's
hormone
like
wouldn't be activated, tearing up your whole,
right.
shortening your life. I think that's what people don't realize, the correlation between shortening your life and your disease quotient and and doing a little meditation. And I think you sharing that about John Kabat-Zinn's work is really important. A lot of people have done this work, um, and it's dire, right? Like our health outcomes dictate we make a change.
I'm getting to the age now where we are losing parents and we are getting on medications for heart problems.
Yeah,
We are getting the diabetes diagnoses, but we ignored the anxiety and depression for 20 years. Now we're getting the physical diagnoses.
yeah,
So it's really important that, like, what you said is so true. This is dire because it's better than medication. My meditation is my medication.
mhm,
So I don't want to take pills one day. I don't want to get the diagnoses one day. And the way you get the diagnoses is you let your chronic stress take over your body.
yeah.
That's how.
I know so many Black women that were achieving in corporate America. I mean, huge, right? But they were
Got
dying,
sick, I'm sure.
really almost died. Their doctor's like, if you don't stop right now, I am putting you on bed rest. They didn't have not a child in their body. I'm telling you, you cannot go back to work for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And I'm telling you, when you get done, you can't go back to that job in the way it's set up because you will die. They literally had chronic killing them diseases
Yep.
from the stress of being in these hostile environments.
Yep.
Now, I'm one that prescribes to the notion that current westernized corporate America or work period, no matter if it's corporate or not, it could be the factory, it could be whatever, it's not set up for humans, not to
No.
win, not to live fully, not to express themselves, not to be honored. Throw some race, class, and gender and orientation on that thing, and it's a wrap. That doesn't mean you can't thrive in it, but what do you have to push through to get there? So you have to honor the fact that you are in a system that isn't set up for you to win. It's not set up for anyone, let alone us.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out a way to balance that out? If you can't pull out or choose not to pull out, you may love it. This is the work you want to do. This is the setup. But acknowledge that you need some other supports to wrap around yourself. We talk about wraparound services for people all the time. Children in schools, for elderly people when they fall, what's their wraparound service? They need someone to come to the house. They need to go to therapy, physical therapy. They're going to go to hospice. You need the same for yourself. And I just don't know that we approach our lives as needing a team of support or skills to support us in
Yeah.
that way.
I
It's
think
really,
it's such a holistic problem. It's such a holistic problem because oftentimes, and I do resume consults as well, and interview prep, salary negotiation, termination coaching, all that stuff. And oftentimes people want new jobs because they're stressed out. But when they go to the new job, their stress management is still poor.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter if you get a new job, you will end up in the same chronic stressed state.
yeah.
So again, when we come back to meditation, two people get the same diagnoses, two different responses. I work with people who have been hospitalized because of stress. I do. But I'm not stressed
Yeah.
because I have made it a point to employ stress management tools in my tool belt.
Mhm. Just as
So,
important as going to the gym or eating food.
and it's even more important, y'all. Like, I have lost 60 pounds in 2020.
Come on,
I have
girl.
lost 60 pounds.
All right, girl. I didn't know you
Okay.
had 60 to lose, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess so. No, but but my point is, y'all, it really has not been a diet and exercise thing. It has been an emotional healing thing.
Mm. Yes, because we hold on to things and it becomes stored fat, stored in. Yes.
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 Meditation. Meditation helps
It
with
should
the
be our new
stress.
gimmick, meditation for weight loss. Maybe
Huh?
that should be our new thing, meditation for weight loss. Let's go, y'all.
Seriously. I
We
mean,
might get
I can
folks to
guarantee
sign
that.
up.
If you really tap in, and I think this is why, like, I'm really trying to solve this problem. Like, I do want to become work optional and not be a healthcare IT consultant. But in my job, I do mindfulness with all of my teams.
Mm.
Everybody's going to get this relaxation and they all benefit from it. The whole
Yes,
team benefits.
yes. That's
When
a
we don't
better
have
team
somebody
for
losing it, then we can all work more productive and more
that part.
focused.
That part.
But I think trying to get people to meditate, it is exhausting
Mm.
because you know the devil that you currently serve. You know them very well. You know how they're going to show up, you know how they're going to make you feel,
Mhm.
and it's not uncomfortable for you, even though it should be. But you learn how to ignore your body. So when you get around that person and your body hurts, you just ignore it.
Yeah.
When you get that email and your body hurts, you just ignore it.
Mhm. You don't even register that your body is doing something. Yeah,
Nope.
no clue. Because you've
But
ignored it
meditation
for so
gets you in
long.
tune with your body and helps you to start listening to your body.
Yeah. And as scary as it is for that change and that shift into incorporating new thoughts or having things well up and address things, the freedom that you get. It's not that it's not, I don't want to sound arduous, but it's not that it's not a hard one because it takes a bit of work. Freedom and that sense of liberation. Like there's a difference between like emancipation, freedom, and liberation. Those are different states. Totally different things. But it brings with it this new wealth of experience and wealth of you because you have yourself. I think people don't even know they don't totally have a hold on. They don't really know they because there's so many other things that have formed them, be it from family, from society, from school, from work, things they've adopted just to push through. These identities we throw on our backs.
Mm-hmm.
When you let it go, you just be, as you said, be.
Yeah.
What do we get to be? That would be the best question of all. What do you get to be?
Whatever you want. whatever you like.
That part of freedom is probably scary for people. Because I mean, I got excited. I
Listen,
was like, really? And again, this ain't unfamiliar to me. But in full transparency, it still gets me like, really? Are you sure I really got all of these responsibilities? I got 3 children, right? Right? So I can imagine if folks haven't even been exposed to the thought, or they just think it's some silly stuff that people be talking about, as opposed to
yeah.
knowing it, that kind of apprehension of owning themselves in the fullness of exploring. And that's kind of like a real responsibility.
It is though, but like
Uh,
it's so much better
mm,
than what you're doing now. Because ultimately, like most of us are wounded children who are in adult bodies.
yeah.
But once you begin to know that you have choice,
Mm,
you have choice to heal your inner child that is running your life right now.
yeah.
And we forget that. We forget that we have choice. And
Mm,
I just remembered this. I ended an 18-year friendship not too long ago.
mm,
And I
mm,
just got to the point where I realized I have choice.
mhm.
I have choice in being in this relationship. I have choice in not listening to my body and listening to my body.
Yeah.
And every time we don't listen to our body, then we're just telling that inner child, your needs really aren't important.
Yeah, you don't matter. Yeah.
You really don't matter right now.
Mm,
You'll be okay. You'll be fine. But that's not true.
yeah.
You have to listen to your inner child and you have to nurture them. And in some cases, in probably every case, in some way, shape, or form, you have to reparent that inner child. And you can protect them. You can take care of them. You can tell them you're proud of them. You can give them everything
Mm.
that you needed as a kid. And then guess what? You can reparent yourself while you're parenting your kids
So
because you
talk
know what
about
you need.
reparenting. What is reparenting? Because people may be unfamiliar with
Yeah.
what it is or
I'm
how you do it.
yeah. I mean, I heard about this at a workshop. Therapy workshop, and this girl made a comment about reparent. She's like, and when I started reparenting myself, and I was like, wait a minute. What? So
You
it's
mean what
like,
my
oh my
parents
gosh,
did doesn't have to stick in my brain?
bruh,
What my grandparents or
bruh.
my
That
cousins or uncles or aunts or whatever doesn't have to stay in my heart, like just because they made me
that's
feel away.
exactly what it means, bro. Like you get a second chance for yourself. So I
Hmm.
have two personas. My child ego is little Megan, and my adult ego is Meg.
Okay.
So ergo, I don't like when people call me Megan because I'm still reparenting her, but she
Gotcha.
doesn't run my life anymore.
Oh, that's nice.
Meg runs my life.
I love that.
So reparenting, yeah, reparenting is like, Megan, I am so proud of you. Megan, I love you. Because for me, my mother was not emotionally available. So I didn't get the I love yous, I'm proud of you, you did such a good job. So I do those things. I say those things to little Megan.
Mm.
If little Megan acts out because she's insecure, then I nurse that insecurity. How do I do it? I just Google it. How do you nurse insecurities? How do you manage insecurities? Things that I've learned in therapy over the years. I just do these things. But then
Yep.
that also makes me mindful with my nieces and nephews. I don't have any kids. We're not having kids. But with my nieces and nephews, same thing. Tell them I love them all the time. Tell them I'm proud of them. Ask them directly, do you feel supported right now in your life?
Yeah.
How can I support you? Right? These are questions that you need to be asking your partner, you need to be asking your coworkers, you need to be asking your lover, whoever. Your kids especially. Your kids especially, they want to know that they are supported by you,
Exactly.
that
And
they're
seen and
heard.
accepted. I I go through that with my 3 all the time. Like, I accept you. I see you. What is it you need here? And But I've been very intentional since they were little about giving them language to express their feelings or to say, I'm not feeling this, or I have a question, or I don't like, I'll say this is the plan, and they'll be like, can we? I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Sure. Right. It could be dinner. It could be what we're going to do for the day. It doesn't matter. I don't have to run the show completely. We're all partners on this little trip we're on while they're living with me. But that doesn't mean sometimes I'm like, this is what we're going to do. Just accept and move through
I
it.
got to pull the mom card real quick. Let me just
Sometimes I got to be like, nah,
put it down.
but you said, yeah. So we discussed it and I made a final decision. And now you're speaking a little rudely. So we're going to pull that right on back, Frank. All right. Manage, but I think that giving ourselves the tools to be able to listen and decipher what our needs are, what our thoughts are, and where we hurt, also helps with our own empathy with others. The fact that you've done this work means what was missing for you, and then you can share that with your nieces and nephews and give them a new tool that they may not be getting at home, right?
Absolutely.
And that's awesome. Your coworkers, oh my goodness, your partner, like your hubby is probably living lavish right now. Like, what? She asked me the question. I needed a yes, thank you. Let me answer this for you. And it just leads to just more full and vibrant relationships and really seeing and understanding folks. So don't get as triggered by whatever they're moving through because you understand it. You've got some information. Or if they do act a little wonky, it ain't about you. 9 times out of 10, it's not.
That's so real.
That was a little treasure trove you just gave us. All of this has been a treasure trove. Can we tell you how many times my face was like, yes. I appreciate that. Is there anything in the anchors or this mindfulness or the meditation work that you want to make sure you leave us with before we get ready to close out? Any final thoughts or something you knew you wanted to get to while we were chatting and we may not have gotten to it yet?
I know, right? No, I think we definitely covered a lot, but I will just end with, extend yourself some grace, extend yourself empathy, and enjoy the journey of this practice.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom, your humor, and all of these resources with us, because all of these little tools will help us move through a little bit lighter, a little bit more intentionally, and hopefully getting to ourselves.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for having me, Ivy.
Thank you so much, beautiful. What a good time. Well, hopefully you all enjoyed yourselves, and we thank you for joining us. We had a good time, so we hope you had a good time too. Thank you.